Welcome to the Property Pod with Moneyweb. The property sector is an ever-changing sector, and in this podcast series, your host Suren Naidu chats to movers and shakers in the property industry.
Hello and welcome to the Property Pod, South Africa's leading property investor podcast. This weekly show also features as a vodcast on Moneyweb's YouTube channel, Moneyweb TV, as well as major podcast platforms. It's Women's Month in South Africa, and we are continuing our focus on top women execs and entrepreneurs in the broader property sector. We have a familiar face back on the podcast after 5 years. She is Ipeleng Mkhari, and she was appointed chairperson of JSE-listed Attacq last year, succeeding Pierre Trudeau. But she has almost 3 decades of experience in the property sector, and people with long memories will know her leading one of the biggest BE deals with Marriott back in the early 2000s, later establishing Marriott, Motseng Marriott rather, and later on Motseng Investment Holdings. Mkhari is also a former president at SAPOA, as well as former chair of the Women's Property Network. Ipeleng, welcome back to the Property Pod. It's almost half a decade or more than half a decade.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be back, Suren.
The honor is mine. Good to have you back on the podcast. What have you been up to in the last 5 years? Obviously, the chair position at Attacq was a big or more notable appointment last year.
Well, Suren, it's been a busy 5 years as I think of it. The last time I was probably chatting to you, we had just concluded an acquisition of an engineering business, Mott MacDonald Africa, with Malani Parayachi-Saman in 2020. And we had started that, integration of that business in MPA Mott, the new brand and the new name. And I think, as you've said, I've had the honor of recently being appointed as the chairperson of Attacq. And I think in the time period between, those last 5 years, there's been a lot of planning, some studying, and a lot of corporate activity within the Motseng group. But most importantly, I think just being able to try and consistently focusing on the asset classes which we love, which are obviously property, and both at a personal level. My role at Attacq has become one which I really have taken a great honor in assuming and serving as the incoming or the new chair now of the business. And we've had a lot of fun in not only at Motseng, but also at Attacq. But generally, I think in the industry, I think you've seen as well, Suren, that, we've experienced so many major challenges in our country, which affect property players all the time and continue to affect us. But we've been quite resilient, I think, as an industry and as a sector in trying to withstand those. So my time has been filled with solutioning, trying to find opportunities that make sense in our context and our economy that also deliver, real responses to the problems that we have. And at the same time, continuing our journey as a business in the broader, I would say, infrastructure, not just property space. Within South Africa.
Get to the infrastructure side of things, but Attacq, you have been part of the board, I understand, since 2018, so it's not exactly a new role for you in the broader business, but you're not unfamiliar with being on boards, JSE-listed boards. I know you were once on SA Corporate's board. It might have been on a slightly different name back then. And then you were also involved with Delta at one stage. So you know the listed property sector quite well.
Correct. And I served on Ambit as well at some stage in my life. So it's been a good, 2.5 decades of serving on various boards. Certainly Attacq is the biggest opportunity that I've had to serve. And when I say biggest opportunity, not only by virtue of its market cap, but also I think by virtue of the business itself. The business of Attacq is obviously born out of a highly entrepreneurial business that has, since really focused on an amazing capability around precinct management and precinct ownership, and a business that is also, I think, challenging the norm of what does it mean to operate as a REIT in South Africa. We are now, an energy, we've got part of our business is looking at energy. Part of our business is looking at how we maintain and manage a lot of the fiber network in our precincts. So it is a very holistic focus on precinct ownership. I think what is really important, Suren, is that we have refocused our business on South Africa entirely in the last 12 to 18 months, having sold out our property assets in the continent to Lango. And really what we're dealing now with is how do we develop and maintain what we have? As you know, we have a large land portfolio, which requires a massive development focus. And that's a big focus area of ours in the business. And I suppose one which our shareholders are seeking to see real value coming out of the portfolio. So as you look at Attacq today, having been listed for over 10 years on the stock exchange, what excites us is our logistics play. It's exciting to see our focus also on digital infrastructure. And as I've said, areas such as energy that actually just continue to manage the resilience of the portfolio. We'll always have our underlying portfolios in retail, large retail assets. And obviously, as you know, we've got a very strong office accommodation portfolio as well. So I think we are in a very interesting space, having also brought on board the PIC as a shareholder into our business. That has, I think, provided us with continued ability to really, really leverage our restructured balance sheet. And I think that has been really, really important for the business. So all in all, it's been such an honor serving on Attacq since 2018. I think now what I have the pleasure of doing really is working very closely with our board and the management team, highly effective and successful management team, and taking the business further into the next few years.
Thanks for that. What does your role entail? I have understanding of what a chairperson does, but obviously it has more responsibility being the chair, considering you were on the board, broadly speaking, before, especially from a corporate governance side, and you do know the property industry well.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think the role, Suren, is one which entails a strong focus on ensuring that our shareholders understand where the business is. We as a chairperson, whilst I am chair of the board, really the deliveries to the shareholder. They're the ones who are the significant beneficiary in this entire relationship. So my role is really one of a stakeholder management role, ensuring that our shareholders understand our strategy, that they're fully updated with it, that we're delivering on the outcomes or rather the projections that we have, and that when there are challenges, that I am fully behind the management team and the board in ensuring that we deal with whatever those issues may be, which thankfully I think we've managed exceptionally well. We haven't had any major issues. The second role from a board point of view is obviously, working very closely with the CEO. Jackie van Niekerk is an exceptional leader, and she's one who has also grown in the industry. And so my role is supporting her and ensuring that the strategy she's laid out, the objectives that the team has are actually fully ventilated, understood, challenged, discussed, and obviously delivered. And that's really my role. And obviously the last role is ensuring that the broader stakeholder base of our employees are also fully supported in their mandate of delivering what needs to happen within Attacq. So it's a far more involved role. And I think one which ensures that from a leadership perspective and a governance perspective, we are a listed business, that we are one which, follows the rules, adheres to what is required, and upholds what it means to be a strong corporate citizen. I think the last comment I'll say about my role at Attacq is not changing what it is. Attacq is a brilliant business, an entrepreneurially founded business, and a big part of my role is ensuring that we keep that energy. whilst being a strong corporate citizen.
Obviously, you're an entrepreneur yourself, and you also mentioned Jackie van Attacq, and I was going to mention that too. Considering it's Women's Month, you being a leading woman in property, and Jackie van Attacq being a CEO of the company that you are chairperson of, and coincidentally being recently appointed chairperson of the SA REIT Association. How is your relationship with Jackie and the broader team? Obviously, you mentioned it's quite an exciting company to be involved with, especially considering the development rollout at Waterfall City. You talked about other sectors, but energy, for example, which your own company is also involved with. But at Waterfall City, they also were one of the first REITs to directly own a data center property.
Correct. Absolutely, with Vantage. And it's an exciting venture. Suren, my relationship with the management team is a very positive one. I think there's a common respect, and this is an innovative team. It's also, I think, a team that has grown with the business. And I think that's very important. You have members of the team who I knew, but largely a team that has understood the roots of Attacq. With a strong leadership team, it's very exciting and a little bit easier to be able to chart the way forward. And I think that we have the benefit of a very positive relationship, not just myself, but the board. That relationship is underpinned by robust engagement. So it doesn't mean that we don't disagree. We disagree on points, but we get to a point where we understand what is best for Attacq. And I think we trust the team. We trust the management team to lead the way. And for us as a board to support the strategy, to ensure that, we're delivering on the key deliverables and the key outcomes that the shareholders would want. So we're in a very privileged position, I want to say, as a team collectively. I think what's important is what you've just said. Being a REIT in the South African environment, and being a business leader means that you are constantly required to look at what it is that you need to be able to bring to the table. So whilst we want to make sure that our, share price and our results meet the requirements of what we put out in terms of our guidance, what is equally important is what we put back into society and to communities, and we're actively involved in our communities and what we give back. But in the middle is this country that is dealing with massive infrastructure requirements and massive infrastructure reform that is actually needed. And unfortunately, without focusing on that, it becomes difficult for businesses such as Attacq to grow. And so we have had to become players in spaces such as energy. We've had to invest in solar plant on our own that actually makes sure that we can wheel energy back to ourselves. That has also been able to improve part of our results, which has been quite exciting. And we can see the impact of the renewable energy space within our own business. But we've also looked at how we focus on real partnerships. So outside of the development space and the land parcels that we need to develop within Attacq, you would know many of our land parcels are co-developed with the other developers, where we are able to build out large logistics spaces and or office spaces. And we continue with that strategy. And the digital infrastructure space is such an example where we've partnered with a global, data center developer and co-owner. And we're very excited about that. We think that there's massive opportunity in that space. And as Attacq, we have the sites. And I think we have the innovative team that sees those opportunities and brings them to the table. We also, you may have picked up, we've recently expanded on our hospitality offering. We're excited about what that can bring and more of a conference center opportunity with the Rabi Group. So there's a consistent drive, not only at the Waterfall precinct, but in all of our parcels of property to ensure that we are bringing what our customers and our tenants want, and our shoppers want, but also that we're delivering on the requirements of being a sustainable business. Because if we don't, it becomes quite difficult to bring, credible solutions to the table.
A lot of exciting things happening at Attacq, especially around the Waterfall and Mall of Africa precinct. You talked about logistics. I interviewed Leila from Equites, who bought some of Attacq's property last. I believe,
Absolutely.
and the logistics with the rollout of that new hub with the, I believe it's Sanlam Properties as well.
Yes,
So there's a
Sanlam
lot
Properties
happening.
are co-owners of our parcels of land there. That's a very exciting part of our business. We'd really like to make sure that, logistics players and owners out there are aware of it. It's a big focus of ours. And as you know, Suren, a lot of competition in the market and potential partnership out there. So we need to make sure that we are out there communicating that strategy of ours.
Lots to watch. There's lots of news. So good for Moneyweb because our readers and listeners love development stories, new
Right.
investments, and a lot of your properties are new. Ipeleng, just turning to your own business now because that's almost your day job. A key focus is
Yes.
Attacq, but as chairperson. But Motseng Investment Holdings, how are things going from that perspective? Any major developments or deals over the last few years since we've last spoken?
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Suren. I think we are at a very interesting point in Motseng. You know that our history is property. We have over 2 decades of experience and have enjoyed the privilege of participating in that market. About a decade ago, in 2015, in fact, 2009, I'm actually incorrect. We've reached service commencement of one of our first triple Ps. I'm very pleased that over the last decade and a half, we have cemented our investment in this particular space. And we foresaw, I think, post the listing of Delta, in about the 2016 era, we could start seeing that government was becoming a little bit agitated with the large government office space requirements and the requirement for massive equity to really upgrade those assets. And there was an option that was available, which we had already, as Motseng, invested in the public-private partnership space, which offered office accommodation. So, Ren, we've successfully last year launched a partnership called Motseng Ideas Infrastructure Group with the South Africa's and the continent's leading infrastructure player, being AIM. AIM is an old mutual entity. I think that entity has, and our partnership has really delivered and shown us as a business how the platform play, where we're bringing assets that we co-own to a new platform, putting a new leadership team in place, led by the Motseng team, Motseng Ideas team, led by Bongi Pichi, is a really exciting opportunity for us as an owner-managed business with an institutional player. And I think those opportunities exist in the market. So what we are looking at as we look forward, we have a wonderful strategy called Chasing 2028. It's a 5-year plan, started in 23. And really what it is our infrastructure play, Soren, following the acquisition of Mott MacDonald, the conclusion of our MEAG platform last year. We see real opportunity in water, in energy, in roads, in rail. We're very excited. Can't really say which transactions we are reaching financial close on, but I think they'll be announced soon. We're very excited by 2 major transactions that are in the process of reaching financial close, which are in the infrastructure space. One in the border post space, and the other in a passenger rail opportunity. And I think what that says about Motseng's strategy, our Chasing 2028 strategy, is that finding the right partners, leveraging our understanding of the property asset class to look at adjacent opportunities in PPPs and infrastructure is really important for us. And that is underpinned by our vertical integration strategy, which really speaks to where we started, Suren, being an operator or manager of assets. So as a property manager, we understood what it means to collect money and rental. And as a facilities manager, we know what it means to manage assets. So we believe that our story will continue to be about how we operate, how we manage the assets on an asset management function, and also how we co-own, in these large assets that are now in not just property, but the infrastructure space. And that's what's keeping us very busy, as a business. So our business is growing in, acquiring, assets in new asset classes, which sit alongside property. And I think lastly, we have a very exciting property portfolio, and a project of about 10 rural retail assets that are currently under DD with a particular lender. And we're excited about the ability to raise some money to refurbish and redevelop some of these assets with our partners across the country. And that kind of finishes off our property story. So property is still part of us. Infrastructure is a growing space for Motseng, and one which we, I think, are definitely wanting to be a significant player in South Africa.
Lots of news. Hopefully you can share some of those deals once they come through. Do you have quite a big number of women in your business, one would think? You mentioned Ms. Padiachi as well. How big is the group now, and how many people does the group employ? Obviously, it's private, so I'm not going to ask how much money you make.
We employ over 450 staff across our subsidiaries and associate businesses. I'm extremely proud to say that we seek, the best amongst men and women, and we have a bias to women. But if you look at our most recent executive team, we've just taken on board and excited. We'll soon be introducing our CIO in September, a young man. And I think he's going to balance out the team. So we'll have about executive of about 9, 5 women, 4 men. And I think we're not doing too badly there. We believe in the power of the women that we have. Bongi Wepichi, as you have referenced, Bongi is a lawyer by training, but has led AXA, certainly as a GM, led large sites, and also was involved in the co-development of a Brazilian airport on behalf of AXA. We have a number of other women in our midst. And I think, Suren, for us, what we see, such as Malani Padayachi, our head of Motseng Concessions, Nandi Trinidad, also an facilities management executive at one of the large FM businesses, and who previously worked at Motseng. She's now back to lead our concessions business. So our view is that there are many women and men out there who really understand what we are doing and who have so much to offer this country. And we're excited that, they form part of our team.
That was Ipeleng Mkhari, who is recently appointed chairperson of Attacq Limited, but she is also the founding CEO of Motseng Investment Holdings.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Property Pod with Suren Naidu. To listen to more episodes, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates.